So, dear viewers, does air pollution cause deaths? Experts say yes, doctors say yes, common sense says yes, even the government has said yes on some days. On other days, like today, the government has said no, no deaths are caused due to air pollution. Confused? Let me explain. The Union government has constantly said in Parliament that there is no conclusive evidence to link air pollution and deaths. It has said so again today. Read this reply given in the Rajya Sabha by Kirtivardhan Singh, who is the MOS for Environment, and I'm quoting him here. There is no conclusive data available to establish a direct correlation of loss of life due to air pollution. Air pollution is one of the many factors affecting respiratory ailments and associated diseases. Health is impacted by a number of factors, which include food habits, occupational habits, socioeconomic status, medical history, immunity, heredity, etc., etc. Let's for a second forget the fact that the government cannot conclude whether pollution causes deaths or not. Can we ignore the fact that just 10 days ago, the government knew exactly how many lives were being lost annually? That's right. On the 18th of November, the Union Health Ministry released a letter to reporters. It was written by the Health Secretary to the Chief Secretaries of all states and union territories in the country. In that letter was a reminder about measures ahead of peak pollution months, and it had referred to an earlier advisory that was given on October 19th. Now, the October 19th advisory included the National Program on Climate Change and Human Health document, which then highlights an ICMR study. So get the causal chain. On November 18th, a letter is sent out reminding state secretaries of an advisory sent over a month ago. In that October 18th advisory, there's a document about the NCCPR, and on that there is a highlight of an ICMR study. It's a convoluted chain, but nevertheless, it's a clear link. And that ICMR study reveals what you see on your screens, that 17 lakh deaths were linked to air pollution in 2019 alone. So the government has this data, and it admitted to it just 10 days ago. Why does it pretend otherwise in Parliament? This bizarre amnesia, schizophrenia of the health ministry is almost laughable, because even if the no data available line flies in the face of a plethora of studies, we're just putting out some of them on the screens, studies and surveys that across the world which have researched precisely this. Yes, the methodology might be different, which is why the findings are different, which is why the headline figures you see on your screen are different. So you can say that the data is diverse and not unanimous, but to say there is no data. Now, the reason why we are beginning this debate on tonight at 8 p.m. with this issue is because to us it sums up the apathy of the Environment Ministry and by extension much of political accountability in this country. Because remember, it took pretty much a month for the Union Minister to even speak on pollution, while most of the north of the country was blanketed by smog. Don't we deserve better alacrity? That's the question we are asking to our viewer. To my guests joining me, we have R.S. Pathania, leader of the BJP, Karan Verma, author, Syed Asad Abbas, political analyst, Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, chairperson of Nephron, and Vimlendu Jha, noted environmentalist. Thank you all, gentlemen, for joining me today. Let me start with you, R.S. Pathania, sir. Sir, what is the schizophrenia? On one hand, the government says today in Parliament, and this is not the first time it has said in Parliament. A few days ago, it said it in the Lok Sabha. Today, it said in the Rajya Sabha. And it's been saying this consistently, that it does not have any data linking exactly how many deaths were caused due to air pollution. Yet, this reply comes from the health minister. Yet, the health secretary sends out a reminder for a letter which had included a headline figure by the ICMR survey itself of 17 lakh people dying every year. So, either the government has the data or it does not have the data. Why this confusion?
Yes. Sir, first of all, a very good evening to everybody on board. So, palpably, on the face of it, as Mr. Ritangshu has said, it looks like that there are two versions from the government side, but that's not at all the case. The letter of the health secretary, I don't know what was the material on record with him, but it virtually shows the exigency and virtually the activeness of the Sarkar with regard to countering the air pollution also. And secondly, the reply of the government, which has been tabled on the floor of the parliament, I think that is with a view to creating a certain smoke screens and hoaxes and hallucination which some people were out and out to create and try to create in issues out of thin air. I think the government has specifically said on the rightest note that no conclusive evidence, absolutely no conclusive medical evidence to say that only air pollution was the cause behind such and so number of deaths also. My respectful submission remains that punchline remains that this is such an issue, should not be and would not be a case of a discussion between the ruling and the opposition and the treasury benches. We all should be united. We all should work and strive to create a greener India, a better India, a cleaner India, an India free of air pollution, India free of smokes,
Mr.
and India,
Patani, I'm not getting
Indian
you saying
people
that this
with
should
good health,
not be an issue
good
of
lungs,
debate
and good
between
air.
the government and the opposition?
Yes, this is, yeah,
You're saying this should
sir.
not be an issue of debate between the government and the opposition?
So, sir, debate should have been there. Debate and discussion and deliberation. This is the core of the parliamentary practices and the parliamentary proceedings. But trying to score political browning points, trying to create issues on the floor of the parliament. That's what I'm saying. That's not worth tolerating, and that should be avoided. This is my respectful submission to each and everybody on board. And
But
this is
that
what the
wasn't
government has
done.
tried to scuttle
This
it
was
also.
done in the most
We have not
cordial
tried to
ways
downplay,
possible.
put the issue under the
Mr.
carpet, sir.
Pathania,
Please.
this was a question. Let me just put, this was a question which was posed on the floor of the House, a question posed
Please.
by JDU MP. You are an
Absolutely.
ally of the ruling party.
Absolutely.
And the reply was given as a written reply. There was no acrimony, there was no point scoring done. It's a question and answer, which is the very foundation of a parliamentary debate. Now, you said that studies, there is no conclusive studies or medical studies which connect air pollution to deaths. Let me get in the medical expert on the panel, Dr. Sanjeev Bagai. We have been discussing at length, and we are very grateful to have you on Mirror now so regularly, because you have been speaking on this issue for the past 1 month. There's no medical evidence to show deaths caused by pollution, Dr. Bagai. Your opinion?
Good evening. So there is overwhelming and completely conclusive evidence that air pollution has a direct impact on disease, disability, and death. Allow me just exactly 2 to 2.5 minutes, and let me give you the exact data, because this includes a lot of statistics. There are more than 850 studies in the last 5 years, which are global studies. Air pollution, direct impact, disease, and death. There are more than 45 studies which have been published in international peer-reviewed, absolutely authentic journals, which have linked air pollution to disease and death, which are in Indian context. I repeat, Indian context, because someone may challenge there are some studies done in Mexico or in US or in other places. So I'm only now quoting exactly verbatim with dates of the Indian studies. Lancet, July 24, 10 Indian studies has shown a direct impact of 7.2% of all daily deaths are because of PM 2.5, increasing every 1% above the WHO norms. Lancet, January 2021, has shown an increase by 115%, amounting to 1.6 million deaths. Lancet, December 22, Lancet, May 24, Lancet, December 19, December 2022, June 22, 4th July 22, 10 Indian studies meta-analysis. British Medical Journal, again of 2023-2020, of 184 cities meta-analysis. New England Journal of Medicine, which is of November 21, of 35 studies meta-analysis, which is of data crunching. Wow. What does this show? This shows a direct impact on increasing mortality. Now, let me just come down to what is mortality increase, what is it looking like? Every 10 notches, that means 10 micrograms per meter cube of PM 2.5, which goes up, there is a 2-fold increase in cardiorespiratory and metabolic deaths. Every 1 microgram increase equates to 12,000 deaths per year. They have quantified it to individual deaths too. There is also data to show that 15 minutes of exposure to this toxic level induces respiratory distress. 1 hour of exposure induces risk of heart attack, which is 2 to 4-fold increase. And on day 2 to day 5, there is an increased risk of 2-fold to sudden cardiac arrest. There is no doubt that air pollution has
enough and more data available.
Just allow me 15 seconds more. And how this is authenticated is they have done the exact values in human tissue and blood of PM 2.5, PM 10, ozone, NOx, SOx. I'm not even touching the aspect of lead in the air or indeed microplastic and nanoplastic. That's a separate chapter altogether. But that also causes air pollution. There is a direct established relationship between air pollution and it's a linear graph. More the air pollution, more the deaths. Over to you.
So there's enough and more data, Dr. Bagai. There's enough and more data that's available to a common man. Forget the amount of data that would be available to a government here, which is at the highest levels of power. Then Karan Verma, what according to you then explains A, this reluctance to give out data and this blatant contradiction to the health secretary's letter, which the latest one just came out 10 days ago, because it is impossible to pretend that there is no data exists. There is no data which is existing, yet the reply comes again and again in parliament, there's no data.
I think, Ritangshu, we are missing the forest for the trees here and we are getting caught in the semantics. Nobody can deny, and they've not denied, that there is a link between air pollution and health hazards and eventual death. So when we get stressed on whether there is a direct link, there is an indirect link, it's one of the factors. So I think we are falling for that trap. Nobody can deny the severity of the problem, and this government for sure hasn't denied that because they've made it their biggest political plank in the election here in Delhi, which is due in the next 2 months. So they can't be in denial of that. Of course, they know that pollution is a very serious issue and it ranks right up there because it affects the common man, and never before have we been more engulfed by it. I'd rather bring my focus to solutions because all the political parties, and I don't wear a political hat right now, I say this for all political parties, somewhere they're all guilty of ignoring and neglecting this issue at large. And we need to fix accountability. As citizens,
yes,
if we cannot
of course, but isn't
breathe
step
clean
one
air,
acknowledgement? If on the floor of the house, the government doesn't acknowledge a direct connection between pollution and the number of deaths, then aren't we starting off itself on the wrong foot when we start looking for solutions?
I think again, you're getting caught in the semantics, whether it's a direct link, it's an indirect link. It's a direct link to maybe a pulmonary disease, as Dr. Bagai said, which caused death. So are we going to get caught into what caused it, what didn't cause it? Of course it is a cause. Is it the main cause? I don't know. I mean, we may differ on that from case to case, but of course it is a very, very serious health hazard that is eventually causing death. The government isn't in denial of that. Otherwise, why would it corner a political party in Delhi about it? Because it's saying that it's causing death. We are breathing this air. Of course, it affects our health. So, let's not get caught into this. And rather, I think we should focus our energy on the solutions. And there are very serious solutions which need to be discussed here, Ritangshu. And also, we need to discuss the complete apathy here. Today, right now, when we talk of Parali burning, let's understand this. We have an area of 17,900 square kilometers, which is 12 times the size of Delhi, that continues to burn for close to a month. Imagine this kind of fire burning, and we are sitting on it from so many years, year after year, discussing whether the cases have gone down by 10% or 15% and still not resolving it. When we have cedar machines where governments can cooperate to eradicate this from the root. I mean, what does it take? What can be more important than the air that we breathe? This is what needs to be addressed, and whichever political party is not cooperating in that, they should be held to account by the people. We get the government that we choose. People should make this an issue, and they should vote out a government that is not sincere about its efforts to combat pollution, because it affects each and every one of us. And it's true, there are deaths happening because of that. But then what do you say about a government that has done precious little about it, that says we'll spend more on ads but not on the RRTS project that has to be pulled up by the Supreme Court? So these are questions that need to be asked of various governments.
Yeah, fair point. I can get what you're saying, that at the end of the day, what is important is not data, but about what we see real action on the ground. And I'll go across to my other panelists on this as well. But let me bring in Vimlendu Jha on this point. Vimlendu, do you agree with Karan's view that it's ultimately a matter of semantics and one should not get into whether we have exact data or exact connection here? At the end of the day, pollution is something we can all see in front of us, and there needs to be action on the ground.
Absolutely disagree with what Karan said. Because this is not semantics, not agreeing and not accepting that there's actually death. It's not a health hazard that we're talking about. There is mortality that's been established already by the government itself. And here we're not even talking about a foreign researcher or someone else. And therefore, for Karan to really call this semantics is something, it's the wrong choice of word or wrong sense of politics that he has right now when it comes to an issue like this. We need to understand that, just because there's no, death certificate doesn't state that death because of air pollution, we're not counting that. But the reality is that what Dr. Bagai said, that, if 1.5 million people are dying in our country because of air pollution, and this is not just, by the way, Delhi, as in indeed the government and the MCD and Delhi government, so on and so forth, need to be really reprimanded. But this is also a North India problem. As much as the blame goes to the local government, the problem is regional, and everyone is supposed to be held accountable. And accountability is not semantics or asemantics or anti-semantics. It's about the fact that at floor of the house, India's parliament doesn't accept that people die because of air pollution is the most dishonest disservice to an issue which is perhaps post-independence or perhaps in the history of our country, the biggest public health challenge that India has been facing is air pollution. Like, look at what we were breathing just a week ago. We were breathing 1700 AQI or the readings in private air quality monitors were around 1700 to 1500, while the government monitors peaked out at 500. That doesn't mean that air quality index was actually 500. So government doesn't give us data of pollution, and irrespective, and today, of course, there's one political party at the center, and therefore they need to face the brunt of and take accountability and responsibility. They don't tell us what's the air pollution levels, because it peaks out at 500 and it reaches 1500, and therefore what you do at 500, which is GRAP 4, is what you do at 1500 as well. How many people actually are dying because of air pollution? There's no data. Of course, ICMR says that yes, 70 lakh people died. Of course, ICMR is also an Indian credible medical body. Lancet, of course, says that similar number that Lancet has been giving. Similarly, other research studies that have taken place that talks about how every third child in Delhi actually has a pulmonological disorder, or perhaps for that matter, everyone who lives in Delhi loses 10 to 12 years. So, we talk about mortality, and today's discussion is about mortality, as Dr. Bagai was talking about, that there's also morbidity and other issues. And unless and until you accept it, and that's why, just to say that just because there was an announcement of an NCAP or a CAQM, and I'm saying this very, very responsibility, like this is, very little, very late, a sham and eyewash, a hogwash, because proportionate action needs to be taken. Imagine in a country like when there are so many people dying, as per government's own health department, which is responsible for death and health and life and so on and so forth. And then we have Minister of State Environment saying that, oh, well, we can't attribute it to that. It's very, very unfortunate. We need to call out the dishonesty of the government. And here, there's no two version. There's nothing called semantics in this.
Yes, Karan, would you like to respond to this point? Just 2 points. I'm reading out from the reply itself in the Lok Sabha. It does not mention a link between air pollution and a specific medical condition. The phrasing is very clear. There's no direct evidence to establish a direct correlation of loss of life due to air pollution. The other aspect is in terms of continuously having their head buried in the sand like an ostrich. You have a health secretary on November 18 saying that, linking to a document which says 17 lakhs alive. You have the MOS of the health minister saying in parliament there is no loss of lives due to pollution. There's no data available, let me put it this point.
He never said that.
But at least they're saying something. The union health minister, no, the reply says, the MOS says there's no conclusive data to establish a direct correlation of loss of life to air pollution. And then at least the union health minister.
Can I speak?
We have already discussed there's enough evidence. The point, the question I'm asking is, we have pilloried the Aam Aadmi Party and the Delhi government's handling of the situation for longer. But at the end of the day, Mr. Gopal Rai was coming and making statements on a daily basis. The Union Environment Minister was missing in action completely. Some reports said he was in Maharashtra. His statements on Twitter, his public statements were all about political campaigning which is going in Maharashtra. It took him 3 weeks for for the Environment Minister to come up and give a statement on pollution. Is this not indicative of the fact that the government doesn't want to acknowledge the problem? Forget act on it.
So you are absolutely right in questioning the minister, Mr. Bhupendra, that he was missing in action for 3 weeks and all he was putting out was political stuff. You are absolutely within your purview to question him on that and be critical of him. But to be fixated on whether the cause is just pollution or multiple causes, is it a primary cause, is it a secondary cause? I never denied that, of course, this eventually causes death. And neither has the government said that it doesn't cause death. All it has said that just as in death certificates, you can write death certificate due to pulmonary disease. You will not write death certificate death due to air pollution. So does that mean pollution doesn't cause it? I'm not denying that. I am in complete agreement with what Dr. Bagai said, with what the environmentalists on your panel said. All I'm saying is, what are we getting by saying, is it a direct link or is it an indirect link? Of course, it is a link. And that is what the government has said. So rather than holding the government to account for what it's doing, you are fixated on direct link, indirect link. So I'm saying that is what is trivializing the whole thing. Of course, there is a serious link. So,
let me
we
then,
can all stress it in different tones.
Let me then bring in terms of what the let me
sorry.
then bring in what governments have been doing. Syed Asad Abbas, at this point, hasn't every government been guilty of trying to play down the situation? The Delhi Chief Minister comes up with a statement just a few days ago saying, tom-tomming, that Punjab is the only state in the entire northern region which shows statistics that it has caught down on parali burning. That very same day, an important media report came out which showed as to how NASA satellites were being hoodwinked by these Punjab farmers who had understood that the satellite flies by them between 1:30 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. every afternoon. And a Korean geostationary satellite has actually caught them. And from the next day, the real figures of Punjab's parali burning came out. Isn't every government guilty of underplaying the situation? Because let's be honest, every government wants to be seen to be very vocal about pollution, but doesn't necessarily want to act on pollution because it's a lot tougher to act than to speak.
Ritangshu Sab, I've always believed with great power there is great responsibility and equal accountability. Undoubtedly, be it the Aam Aadmi Party government that we speak of, or even the Bharatiya Janata Party. What happens in Delhi cannot be blamed alone. Of course, the contribution of the pollution comes in from Punjab, from Haryana, from Uttar Pradesh. We need to understand what can be done. Of course, it's important to discuss the problems associated here, but solution is most important. Let me give you one anecdote. There was a time when Manish Sisodia ji was trying to meet out the former Chief Minister of Haryana, Mr. Manohar Lal Khattar. He also said that let us all come together, respective chief ministers of the states come together and form a solution. This does not happen. We also know what happened when Mr. Gopal Rai tried to reach out. The environment minister is missing in action. Is for Bharatiya Janata Party ruling in the center, is winning elections more important? Why do you come to govern? You govern for the citizens of this country, for the people of this country. Let me tell you, sir, this cannot be done by any state alone. And the fact that my friend Karan Verma and the BJP leader speaks, and they are indeed completely in denial. Let me read out the official statement here. Center's reply, this has been, there is no conclusive data available to establish a direct correlation of loss of life.
I've read that
due to
statement
air
out
pollution.
twice.
According to them, now allow me to complete, please. I've come last here. Give me a 1 minute's time. Thank you. Isn't ICMR a report from the government, respected sirs? In the ICMR report, it is clearly, categorically mentioned 17 lakh deaths. There is a direct relation. And now they try to trivialize. What if it happened to our respective families? Would we trivialize the same way? There are enough detailed report, thanks to Dr. Bagai, who was able to bring this. But let me tell you, sir, let me tell you something very important. Unless and until the respective state governments, Aam Aadmi Party, Bharatiya Janata Party, every single party which is causing this, come and bring a solution, this will not work. Or rather resign, I would say, to all the political parties, because this is absolutely not okay. And we, the citizens of this country, are
both
done with these
Vimlendu and Dr.
politics.
Bagai want... Fair enough, one would agree with that sentiment, but that can't be a solution. We are done with politics. We rely on them to clean up our air. Vimlendu and Dr. Bagai want to make a point. Vimlendu, I'll come to you first, then I'll go to Dr. Bagai.
Okay, I think, what Mr. Syed was also talking about is as much as, he wanted to put the blame squarely on the central government and BJP, he is equally dishonest to really say that Delhi's air is polluted, or if Delhi is one of the most polluted cities of the world or the most polluted capital of the world, and this is because of neighboring states. Again, he doesn't know data or doesn't want to share the data.
No, you didn't hear me. I clearly mentioned Aam Aadmi Party. Vimlendu, you need to hear me. I mentioned Aam Aadmi Party, sir.
One second.
Kindly don't jump to conclusion. Hear me carefully.
Sure. And therefore, I'm just trying to, therefore, as in, this is what I do for a living, and therefore, let me educate you that
No,
reality
you
is
don't
that
have to
Delhi's
educate.
air.
You can educate yourself, but you need to hear me clearly. I mentioned Aam Aadmi Party.
No,
Can
one
I
second.
tell
Let's
you
let's be
what-
civil. Let's
So
no,
don't
one
do your
second.
politics here.
One
Don't do
second.
your
I-
politics
Let's be
here.
civil at this
I
point.
mentioned
No,
Aam Aadmi
Syed
Party
Abbas.
and Bharatiya Janata
Let's be
Party.
civil at this point.
Yes. So what I'm
No,
saying is that
no.
reality is
We
Delhi's
can't
air.
be accepting of criticism when it comes to one party and completely say turn the other way with another party. Vimlendu
Absolutely
Jha has
right.
earned his stripes as an environmentalist.
Both the
Please go ahead,
parties,
Vimlendu.
Ritangshu. Both the
Okay.
parties.
So
Let me
what I'm
make it
saying
clear.
is,
Okay. Yes. Now let him.
reality is
Understood.
that there
Yes,
are
we have taken your
local
point. Yeah, go on.
issues. There are local issues, and reality is that Delhi's air, ambient air quality is terrible, primarily because of the local issues. So what we have done is a great disservice to Delhi's air pollution crisis by, depending on our political convenience, blaming some other state. And the same thing goes with Yamuna. And the same thing goes with every other
Yeah.
issue. We think that imagine, when Punjab was with someone else, then Punjab farmers were bad, and now Punjab farmers are good. Indeed, stubble burning is a problem. But I always hold this, that that's an episodic source of pollution. The problem with Delhi's air quality, which is almost 200 to 300 throughout the year on an average, is because of its local issues and the failure of local governance, which is primarily the state government and the municipality, the open burning of garbage that we see, or the lack of public transport, or construction demolition dust and roadside dust, and the broken roads that we actually see. So that's what I'm saying. Sorry, Syed, if sometimes I see you as it says that affectionate towards a political party, and that's what your first part of your argument was. I am saying that all the political parties together will have to come together and understand. And as I said earlier, there's nothing bigger than this in terms of a public health crisis.
Okay, Syed,
Lives
since
lost.
Vimlendu
And
has
right now,
referred to
we're
you
only talking
directly,
about
I'll give you
mortality.
30 seconds to respond to Vimlendu before I go to Dr. Bagai. Syed, 30
Absolutely, I
seconds
think-
for you to give a counter to Vimlendu before I go to Dr.
Thank
Bagai.
you. Thank you, Ritanshu. And I'm glad that Vimlendu has made my point clear. That is exactly what I'm saying. Both the parties, respective parties involved, all the states involved, all the state chief minister, along with center, need to come to a solution because people of Delhi are undoubtedly suffering. And when we look at the India brand across the globe, it is absolutely disheartening. Is this what we want Delhi to be known for pollution, for such bad quality of air? Is AQI is what is
All right, let me
mentioned
bring
time
it
and
back.
again?
I still have 5 minutes on this debate, so I still have 5 minutes on this debate, so I want to bring it back to some specifics here. Dr. Bagai wanted to make a point. Dr. Bagai, while I was hearing Karan's argument at this point as to sometimes it's difficult to pinpoint pollution as the exact cause, because sometimes the death may be more evident due to lung disease or heart disease, something which has been effectively over a long period of time caused by pollution. To my mind, correct me if I'm wrong, this was a very uncomfortable reminder of something which we have seen during the pandemic, where across many states, across all parties, honestly speaking, except for, say, Kerala, deaths due to COVID were being marked down because deaths due to the comorbidities. And as a result, there was a conscientious effort being made in several states to play down the actual deaths due to COVID and term it as deaths due to comorbidities. Only Kerala, to my knowledge, reported them as COVID, which is like Kerala's numbers used to always be high, and then everyone would accuse Kerala's government of failing at this point. Dr. Bagai, is this not going down a dangerous path where we do not address the root and always see the end symptom which actually takes a person's life?
Thank you. So just let me specifically mention medical and statistics and analysis. When you are talking in terms of a risk percentage, what we call as relative risk or OR ratio, these are adjusted ratios. So when you talk, it's a direct link. It is a direct link. It's an established direct link. It's established without any element of doubt. So I'm not going to have any further discussion on whether it's direct or indirect. My answer is it's a direct link, and it will remain so because the literature says so, the publications say so, and the meta-analysis says so. But the real issue is I'm not belonging to any political party. I love my country, and that's my party. The fact is, if any particular regional or central government wants to stay in power for the next 50 years, let them fix air pollution. Just 1 minute, just allow me, please. The Department or Ministry of Environment is too wide and too broad. It needs a separate department or a separate ministry to combat air pollution. It's like saying your team India in cricket. A Tamil Nadu player can't say, I'm playing for Tamil Nadu when he's playing for India. Or a Rajasthan player can't be different. We need a complete representation pan-India. We need this ministry which is led and advised by doctors, scientists, and environmentalists. We need a time-bound program. Next 6 months, what we have to fix. Next 12 months, what we need to fix. If there is no results as deliverables, then there is a big issue for the political and the bureaucratic brass. What are the things within Delhi? Delhi is the mother face of India. The roads are in shambles. Road dust is a huge contribution. Why can't roads be fixed locally? I fail to understand. I don't want to hear it's MCD, PWD, or the local government. Point number 2, public transport has not improved the way it should have improved. The open dhalaus, which are waste dumps, even in residential colonies outside people's homes, are killing people. Why can't we get our waste management right? This is not nuclear science. Other cities have done it. Why can't Delhi do it? Last most importantly, every state, whether it be UP, Haryana, Punjab, stubble burning has to stop. One person's convenience cannot be 100 persons' death.
Dr. Bagai, you mentioned why there should be a single central nodal panel. According to me, that's what the CAQM was supposed to be and should be, but we have all seen how the implementation is a problem. I still say, at the end of the day, yes, all parties need to work together, all states need to work together, and a coordinated solution needs to be found. But I will stay by it at this point. I'm sorry, Karan, I would love to get you in at this point, but we need to wrap up at this point. But I still believe that acknowledgement of the issue starts with, and acknowledgement starts with data. No government which has ever turned a blind eye to science, and the Prime Minister says that every war has to be, medical war has to be fought with science. If we turn a blind eye to data, if we turn a blind eye to science, we can never win any war for health. Thank you so much, R.S. Pathania, Karan Verma, Syed Asad Abbas, and of course, Dr. Sanjeev Bagai and Vimlendra Jha for joining me on this very important debate. It's time for a short break. On the other side, we focus on an equally important issue at this point, which is about this entire scam around digital arrest. There is no such thing as a digital arrest, but it's become a buzzword. We debate that. Stay tuned.